Then to close off, I would like to say a couple of things about scene management, how you actually manage and organize all of these things, because you might end up with very large scenes and levels at some point. And then the question is, how do you organize all of that? First of all, you have the outliner. Especially people coming from Unity seem to be very much so into this. I myself am personally less, I don't use this that much. You can see I simply tend to do this. It's just one long list of things, and that's how Unreal Engine 1, 2 and 3 has always done it. So the outliner is new to Unreal Engine 4, but traditionally Unreal has been very unfocused basically on these kind of organizations. It's not in this current build of the editor, but as far as I'm aware, and if you're watching this video later than it was made, you probably already have this feature. In future versions of the editor, you will be able to group things together and then add them to a folder. So you will be able to make folders here and add them into those folders to organize your scene. So when that feature is in, clearly that will be one way of organizing your scene. Also, as mentioned, you can freely rename things. It doesn't matter how you rename it. Things can share the same name. It really doesn't matter. It has no problem with that at all. This also doesn't affect the asset assigned to it. You can still, even if you rename it, it still uses the same static mesh here. It's really just a name. So you can do that also, as we've done with the lights, to organize it. But then beyond that, you also have the whole set of original Unreal tools used for scene management. So again, people coming from Unity, Maya and other engines, they might be inclined to use this to organize the scene. But the philosophy of Unreal has always been from the beginning that rather than having people manually make folders and manually place meshes in the right locations, they shouldn't be spending time on that. They should just be able to manage their scene without having to make all those folders and all that organization. And there's a number of ways of doing that. First of all, you can easily select things. If you simply right click them, select, and then you have a number of options here. So you can easily select all point lights. So selecting everything of the same type is quite easy. Just right click and use that function, and now I have all point lights. Same for meshes. If I want to find all the meshes using this model, I can right click, select all, and this falls off the resolution. Let me do it again. Select all matching selected classes. If I take that, you can see it takes all the rocks that are the same model. So if I want to replace a model, I can quickly select everything sharing that model and replace all of them with a different mesh over here. Then there is the property matrix. This is a new feature. It's a bit hidden, but it basically allows you to see all the properties here in more of a bigger cell-like overview. And then you're able to sort that table, it's basically a table, based on the properties that the meshes have. So if I were to take, let's take all of these rocks again. In fact, let's take all of these rocks and all of these as well. So now I have this, not that much. And then there's a button here on the left of the eye. And if you press that button, you get the property matrix, which is this. And this basically shows your selection in a table. So you can see all the properties here as well. These are the same type of properties as found here. If anything, it shows even more properties than are displayed here. So this usually only shows a couple of them. This tends to be more complete. So I have quite a lot of things there. And what you can then do is, for example, let's take something that's slightly different on all of them. Let's take the mesh assigned to it. Here you can see static mesh, and you can do toggle column. There's this small little pin in front of it. And now it adds a column here, and I can see this is all the rock on the ground, and these are the rock columns, the pillars. And then I can sort by that, so I can sort my list. So basically what I can do is I can select the entire scene, select all, open that up in the property matrix. Now I have my entire scene visible here. If you click one of these things, you see properties here. Then let's do the same thing again. I will go to static mesh. This is the model that's actually visible. So like show that. And now I can see all the models assigned in the level. And then I can also sort by that. So I can now sort the list and see, okay, well, all of these things here use pillar 29A. Actually, this is 26. So actually it's this. Well, A, B, E. So let's just select all pillars that are called 29, regardless of type. And then you can easily modify all those pillars at the same time, because then we can say, okay, fine, but for example, let's do something with them. Let's replace the model assigned to all of these with a cube. Let me select a cube here. I have a cube selected. Assign. And now you can see it made all pillars called 29 something were replaced with a cube. So that's one way to manage the scene as well. Simply divide it in columns, display whatever you want to display. Be it that, for example, you can just display whatever you want. And then you can sort by that and instantly everything that's going on. You can see which actors are hidden in game, for example, here now, actor hidden in game. So all of these are hidden in game because there are lights, and all of these are visible in game. Let's say I don't want this visible anymore, I can simply click it, and so on. Then beyond that, you also have different, similar but different browsers that kind of do the same thing, which are the scene management tools. So if you go to Window and then to Statistics somewhere, Statistics here, you get this window. And then you can choose what kind of statistics you want to see. So let's go for texture stats or primitive stats. Those are the two most useful ones. If you do texture stats, you can see all the textures in use in the scene. And you can sort them, for example, by how many actors they're used by. So you can see how many times they've been used, which can be quite important. You can also see the resolution here. So this allows you to filter out very large or inefficient textures. And you can also see the size of them here. It's a bit hard to get on this resolution, but there is some size things here. So you can see this texture, which is the normal map for the rock column. That's 21 megabyte, which is rather large. And likewise for primitive stats, does the same thing, but it does it for the modals in the levels rather than textures. So you can see how many triangles they have. So it's all quite low poly, at least these. These are the instant triangles actually, instant sections, sorry. These are the total sections added to it, kind of hard to the resolution. Then this would be the triangles. So you can see the landscape is the highest poly modal in the world. It has 95,000 triangles in total. Secondly, shell rock surface 47 comes with 5,000 triangles, and it is used 3 times, meaning that if you add them up, it's in total 15,000 triangles, 5,000 per piece, used 3 times, 15,000 total. Again, you have a lot more columns here. You can see the size somewhere as well. That one takes 315 kilobytes in 3D information. So you can also use this to sort the scene and organize it a bit. And now it's zoomed out entirely. While we're at it, if you want to zoom in on something, you can select something and press F. So if the same thing happens to you, that for some reason the camera ends up all the way on the other side of the level, for example there, I tend to simply select something, anything really, press F, and it will zoom in on that in order to get very quickly to where I want to go. And also you can do Control 1 or Control 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. until 9. So let me place the camera here. Now I've pressed Control 1. And if I now fly away and I press 1 again, simply press 1, it instantly goes there. So it's a camera bookmark. So what I tend to do is I tend to place one camera bookmark at every important location. So for example, here that's 1, and let's say here in the corridor that's 2. Let's say there's a room behind here, that would be 3. That way when I'm flying around the level, I can instantly say, okay, I should go back to the start area. I'm in the start area, corridor, end of the level. Goes much faster. But then scene organization. We also have layers. The name is quite bad actually, it's not really a layer. When the folders are added to the scene outliner, that would be more of a layer than the actual layers are. The layers should be more viewed as selection sets. So it can remember a selection, but that's about it. It's not an actual layer. For one reason why it's not an actual layer is because every object can be in multiple layers. It doesn't make any, it doesn't follow the regular system. So it's more of a way of remembering selections really. So let's say that this set of actors should go into its own layer. What you can then do is have the layer tab here, right click, create empty layer, or if you wish, add selected actors to new layer. It's pretty much the same. Let me do create empty layer so it's more manual and more better to explain. Then it makes a layer, you can name it, but whatever. There's an eye in front of it that toggles the layer visible or not. Or sorry, there's an eye at the end. Kind of looks the same. As you can see, nothing happens in the scene because this is not yet assigned to the layer. So while having it selected in the viewport, I right click the layer I want to add it to, add selected actors to selected layers. You can see now this allows me to hide those actors. But as mentioned, you can also add it to multiple layers. One object can belong to several layers. So I can select this one, which is shared with this layer, and make a new layer from that. And you can see this also still works. Now it's actually in both. You can see because I have to hide both for it to work. If you double click it, you select the actors in that layer. And you can see this mesh is actually in both of them at the same time now. So again, it's not a real layering system, it's really just selection sets. I don't personally use it this much, only for very specific things, or for example when I'm copy pasting levels together, I want to be able to remember everything I copy pasted in case I need to remove it again and copy paste it in again later on. I'm using it more for those kind of things than actually organizing my scene too much. For organizing the scene, it does tend to work better if you use the level streaming system. So that's another way of doing this. There is a window levels. Then you get this. I don't want to go too far into this because the streaming system is a whole different thing. But what this basically allows you to do is it allows you to add, if you right click, add a level to it. You can add an existing level, or you can add an empty level, or you can move certain actors to a different level. And I can demonstrate that. Let's say for some reason this should be located in a different level. So let me select part of the walkway here. Right click. Add level. Add selected actors to new level. Then I can type a name. And it says this reference is actually used in a group, and it doesn't like the groups, but the groups, they will just continue working anyway. So yes to all in case you get questions. And then now these actors are actually located in a different level that get merged into this level upon loading. You can see there's an eye here as well. If I hide the eye, it also hides this. In fact, if I were to save this for a moment, make sure you save both levels now because it's actually two different levels. If I were to open just the other level, just the level I've made, you can see it contains just the actors I've added in, which is just this. And what you can then do is you can add something to it, or you can modify it. Let's say I want to modify the material on here. Yeah, really, whatever, just something on it. Then I save that level. If I open up the real level again, this also has a different material because it actually took this stuff from the other level and loaded it in. The way it loads it in is defined over here. It says chain streaming method set to blueprint right now. Probably would have been better if it's set to always loaded. If you set it to blueprint and you play the game, it will not show up because we have not configured blueprint to load it. So while it shows up in the editor, in game it will only show up when it's told to show up. And that's not now, so it's not here. But if I were to set to always loaded, it would always be there by itself. And the way this impacts the scene organization, and this is how people have been doing this in Unreal Engine 3 for years, is that you would divide the scene in different categories. So you would have one persistent level, perhaps that is even almost empty. You would have a geometry level. So that's the level containing all the geometry. So everything that's modeled and textures and all that would be in that level. Then you would have a different level containing all the lights. So all the lights would actually be in a different physical level that gets streamed into this one. And then you would have perhaps another layer for all the gameplay. So all the gameplay actors, doors, elevators, jump pads if you have them, items you can pick up, anything that's interactive and scripted, that would be in yet another level. So you have these different levels here that all get streamed in by the persistent master level. And that allows you to break the level up between different people in your team. So if, for example, I'm the person responsible for bridges, I can work on my bridge while someone else works on, for example, the lighting level, and it wouldn't conflict with each other. Once we're done, once I'm done with my bridge and once the other person is done with his lighting level, it would all be automatically combined in this level anyway. Therefore, multiple people can be working on the scene at the same time. And that's the setup for the streaming levels. That's not the only reason for streaming levels. Streaming levels is also used for performance and to get rid of loading screens and etc. of course. But this is one of the buy uses that has been used a lot over the past few years. And then lastly, there's various small things left and right that are quite useful. For example, you could right click any asset in the content browser and then select actors using this asset. And that would select everything in the scene using that asset, as it says. So again, you can also use that to find what you need. So let's say I have meshes here. I want to find everything using this one, this mesh in the scene. Then I have all those types of meshes selected now as well. In fact, if I want to find everything that's part of this folder here, I can just do this. And now it has all the rocks selected by itself. So again, you don't tend to use a scene outliner too much, or at least not I. I tend to rely on all these other type of features in order to find what I need and make sense of everything that's in the scene, keep track of everything. Okay, and that concludes this video. So you should now have something like this as a result. There's a number of particles placed there as well. You might want to add those as well. You can just find them in a content browser. You can see there was a particle there. Add them in, find them in a content browser and just click and drag them into the world. And that's pretty much it. Or copy paste the ones I have in my level. Again, you can take this example level here for a bit more, a bit better view on how everything has been set up and how everything can be expanded further than the quick little level I did during the video. There's some additional effects here. As you can see, there's additional detail in the building as well. But that's pretty much it. So thanks a lot for having purchased my video, and I hope it was useful.